Okay, are we on now?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jan, you should turn that down a little bit, or we speak really softly.
Oh yeah, there's a little. I'm calling
Those
this
little
meeting
arrows?
to order. Good morning, everybody. Calling this meeting to order. It is 7:35. We have roll call, Lynn. Thank you. Addition, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. I do have one. Since the last we had done the agenda, then it rained. Now we have a drainage problem at Woodland Station. We're washing out a bit over there, so we need to address that today. So I'd like to add that to the agenda. And I would guess we can put that in. So we just put it in between, at the end before general discussion. Is there any other additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Then hearing none, could I get a motion to approve that agenda?
So made.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, agenda has been approved. We're election of officers. Well, here we go, brand new year ahead of us. Let's start with chair. Do I hear any nominations from the board on chair for the DDA?
Do you want to do it again?
Yes, I would.
I have a question.
Yes?
Would it be a good idea, since we have some new people on our board, me being one of them, haven't been through this process with you all before, and I know Nick hasn't either, maybe we talk about the roles as the bylaws present them for each of the positions.
Does anyone have that at hand?
Do we have it online? Do we know what the roles are? Sorry to spoil this.
As far as I know, without being real prepared, as far as I know, the chairman is basically to run the meetings, keep order, well, maybe not keep order, but keep the meetings moving forward to,
On track.
just basically run herd, mostly. Vice chairman, of course, is to step in that position and to work with all the committees, as well as chair, but for the vice chair to work with all the committees and to sit in when the chair, to run the meetings, that kind of thing. The secretary, basically what Al did was manage the minutes. Lynn takes the minutes, but he approves the minutes and he watches over the minutes. And of course, Tanner is treasurer. He has the heaviest workload because we have transitioned from being a board with a director to being an active board with all of us participating in the workings of this board. So Tanner has really worked out the bugs in our financial situation so that we all can understand it. He's caught several issues along the way that, for whatever reasons, have needed corrected slightly, so that he did an awesome job with that. And I think a lot of that has been corrected, and it should not be an issue in the future. Now, board, please add to that.
What do we do in the absence if we don't have a Lynn? Is the secretary responsible for taking recording the minutes?
No, we have an audio,
But they need to be transcribed.
and usually one of the board members has done that. It has a lot of times fallen on Jan, it has fallen on Cannell, it has fallen on Lynn, or Ellen. Have you helped?
I would suggest that in every board I've ever served on, the secretary is the one that manages, transcribes, and is responsible for minutes. So I would suggest that in the absence of Lynn, because we don't know, she's a volunteer and her
No,
business
she's a
is
contract.
thriving.
She's a contract.
Oh, you're contract. Well, thank you. And I would just suggest that whomever serves as secretary should take that responsibility, as the other positions do. So that would just be my observation.
Okay.
It's a good suggestion.
Point taken.
Additionally, then, that could be delegated to a contract person.
Yes.
Yes.
And the meaning in the absence of a contract person.
And then additionally, the secretary is responsible for attesting to the signatures on various documents.
Thank you.
It's a similar role to a city clerk.
Yeah.
Tanner?
According to the bylaws, Section 2, officers reads, "The board shall select a chair of the board, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a secretary. Such election shall be held at the second meeting of the Woodland Park DDA and annually thereafter at the first meeting in July," which this is. "All 4 officers shall be members of the board. The chair shall preside at all meetings of the authority, sign contracts, deeds, and other instruments of the authority, if authorized by resolution with attestation by the secretary." That's all it says under offices. Under, let's see, accounting, it does read that all vouchers for payment shall be approved for payment by the chair or vice chair and at least one other officer of the authority.
Okay, does that answer? Thank you. Okay, so now we're back. Excuse me. Election of officers. Chair, do we hear any nominations for chair?
Did you answer Jerry's question?
Yes, I would do that. Happy to, hopefully I'm positive.
Second
Thank you, Jerry.
that. Second that.
Seconded by Jan. Any other nominations from the floor?
Is there anyone else who would like to be chair?
Well,
Rachel, I'm sure would like a break.
all right, well, hearing none, then I guess we'll, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving to vice chair. I would like to take a lead on that and nominate Nick for vice chair, and reason being, Nick is our newest member. Well, other than Kelly too, because she, I think, about the same time. But Nick is our newest member. But because of his resume that he put in to the council, I thought that was very moving. You know, he seemed to be on track with our foundation plan and with what the DDA represents as far as his ideas of what the DDA should do. I think that he's a business person downtown. He's very accessible. I think his personality, he's a very positive, very upbeat person. I think he would be a good new face to our officers and our board, and I think to get him out there and get his feet wet, I think that he would be good to work on bringing new business and new development into our DDA district. So that's why I would nominate Nick.
Not just get his feet wet, but completely drown him on top of that.
Bathed in the blood.
Are you okay with that?
You okay with that, Nick? Any other comment on that? Any discussion? Do I hear a
I'd like to look at Tanner
for vice chair?
Vice Chair,
Okay.
because, well, I don't know. I know when I first walked in here that had I been thrown in the Vice Chair's position, I would have drowned. And Nick, nothing against your what I would see as qualifications, but I'd like to see Nick get a year on the board before he chair. But with Tanner's experience and his knowledge of the DDA, I think he would make an excellent right-hand person for you. That's my thoughts.
He is anyway.
I know.
I would agree with that.
So we have a
Murphy.
second.
I'll second.
Okay. Tanner, is that okay with you?
Yes.
All right, so we have 2 nominations. Let's do Nick first. All those in favor of Nick, please raise your hand so Lynn can count them and see that.
Do I vote for myself?
Yes.
Can if you want to. You can if you want to. Did you get them, Lynn? Okay. And then for Tanner.
You're voting twice?
I don't care which one gets it. And I'm not playing favorites here.
You can only
I'm not ticking anybody off.
You can only vote once.
That's right.
Well, Tanner's not going anywhere, neither is Nick. So.
Right.
Okay, so how did it come out?
There were 5 votes for Nick, 4 votes for Tanner,
Okay, well,
because you can't vote twice.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
okay, well, you're gonna get your feet wet.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, then we
We got
have
better old May West at the house, you can use it.
Okay.
secretary. I would like to vote Tanner as secretary, just to change a bit. I think that secretary and treasurer work very close together. I think that would give him a little variation. I would like to see his secretarial duties.
Which he does anyway.
This is going in the newspaper.
Right.
I'll second that.
To reach out to our new businesses that are coming.
Can I ask Tanner, I believe you're fairly comfortable with treasurer. What's your thoughts?
I enjoy being treasurer. I am comfortable with it. It's taken a lot of work to develop a more thorough understanding of the finances and get things to a point where I think they're under control, at least to the degree we have control.
I have a comfort level with Tanner overseen.
Not necessarily.
Has really done an excellent job. So if he's willing to continue on as treasurer, that's a
Okay, that's your discussion on him being secretary. Okay. Was there a second on that nomination then? That him being
Wilson,
secretary?
yeah, Jan seconded.
Okay. So there
Yes.
was a second on that. Okay. Do I hear another nomination from the floor?
Well, I'd like to nominate Al. Again, I
Okay.
think he's done a great job and in continuing with what he's been doing. As long as Lynn is
Yes.
with us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we have Al nominated with a second from Jerry. Any more discussion on that? Okay, let's take a vote, and please hands up so Lynn can get them. Start out with Tanner as secretary. All those in favor of that? Jan Kelly?
Are you going to vote twice, Jan?
Okay.
Definitely not.
All those in favor of Al?
Okay, Lynn, you've got another year's contract.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Al. Okay, so then who's going to nominate Tanner for treasurer?
I will.
Okay.
I will.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Jan, and seconded by Jerry. Any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor for Tanner as treasurer?
We have a choice.
All right, that's pretty much unanimous. Tanner, you've done an awesome job. We're just not going to turn you loose. Sorry. And I would like to say to Kelly, we're glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
As our liaison to council. I think your position is more important now than it's ever been, because I think working with the new city manager, the new council, DDA, we really need to work closely. We've got a lot of issues that's so intermingled, and I think it's very important that we have a good relationship and a good working relationship with staff, council, DDA, all of it.
Couldn't agree more.
So we're glad to have you in that position and hope that we can work through a lot of
I couldn't agree more,
actions.
Madam Chair. I would just also sound on that open communication. I think that constant open communication between the council and this board is important, and know that each month I intend to report to the council what's happening with the board of directors.
Thank you,
Anything that
Kelly.
is
That's
of-
very important.
I think I agree with you 100%. So keep that in mind as we're here, and help me remember and report to them what is
And vice
necessary.
versa from council.
Absolutely.
We need to know what they're thinking, so we are responding and reacting to concerns as well as
Absolutely.
other things.
I
Okay.
shall. Thank you.
Moving forward then, we have officers, directors, we have approval for minutes. We have a correction from Sally on the minutes of last month before we approve them. I think just a change would be in order. To build a garage in the city of Woodland Park, the ZDP is $46. And in actuality, it's $124. And she would like that corrected in the meeting, or in the minutes. She was concerned that be accurate. So if we can add that to the minutes, if I could get a motion to approve those minutes.
I'd move to approve with the correction made.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Tanner. Discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that has been corrected. And now we will move on, here's that correction, and we'll move on to the TIP agreement with Dan Taylor. How are we going, Dan? Okay, glad to hear that, glad to hear that. Tanner, would I give you the floor on that, or Dan?
I don't mind starting.
Okay,
So I am very pleased to report today on this very exciting project for the downtown that is full of public improvements that will benefit everyone in the district. The project's been in the works for several years, and we agreed, this DDA agreed to basic terms of an agreement with Dan well over a year ago. Recently, Dan came back to the board requesting change in one of the terms, transferability, and to move forward with the agreement. We held a special meeting last month to address Dan's request, and following that, we reached agreeable terms, and have been in touch with Paul Benedetti to report all of that. He drafted an original draft agreement that was sent back to Dan for review and back to this board. Dan had some comments, and the typical review process began. It's been in the works since then. We've combed through the agreement repeatedly and made a number of minor changes from the draft that was originally sent out to this board for review. I'll run through those real quickly, and then Dan, if I miss anything that comes to mind, please speak up. So from that original draft to the draft that was sent out yesterday evening. In section 4.1, the completion of construction date has changed to June 1, 2019, which is what was originally discussed here in the meeting. It was just input wrong into the original draft. And language was added that the, do it real fast here. Completion of construction of all the public improvements on the property on or before June 1, 2019, as evidenced by initial acceptance by the city according to section 1.3.7.2 of the city's engineering specifications. Anybody have a question about that?
Yeah.
We really need to be clear in the contract so that as it was read, it says on the public improvements on the property, there are also public improvements off the property. So you might add within the right-of-way and on the property. Is that acceptable, Dan? Or is that clarified somewhere else? Or do you have a definition of property which may encompass both the right-of-way and the site? Because initial acceptance refers to those public improvements, not the private on-site improvements.
Yes, I'm sorry, Bill.
Also, with regards to 4.1, wanted to reflect on this. There are two stages. One is the completion of the appropriate improvements. Then it's not accepted by the city for maintenance until 1 year warranty period has expired.
Well, that's why this language was changed to read initial acceptance.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate?
I just wanted to make sure that that was aware, yeah.
The public improvements, when they are initially accepted by the city, then the city accepts the routine maintenance of snow plowing, street sweeping, and that sort of thing. It does require a 1-year warranty, and then at the end of that warranty, if there are any failures or deficiencies in the improvements, the developer is responsible for making those repairs prior to final acceptance. So initial acceptance of public improvements is a good mark for completion of those public improvements. Now, the private improvements are completed based on a certificate of occupancy.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just so that, we're on the same page there, that there are two dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of our discussion on Saturday morning, Al.
Yeah.
I talked to Sally.
Yeah, and I just want to make,
that.
yeah,
I
good.
think we clarified it.
As long as the representative from the city, Sally in this case, is content with that, I'm okay, yeah. Just as long as everybody's aware, yeah.
Yeah, and more importantly, I think your attorney was okay with it.
Yeah.
Right, Dan?
Yes.
And then back to your, in section 2.2, it says, the property included in the plan of development area, described in the plan. Okay, the owner intends to develop the property by designing and constructing on or adjacent to the property certain public improvements. So it does define it that way. Is that all right?
just as long as everyone understands that property in the general term is both the public improvements and the private on-site improvements.
Al?
Dan, on 2.2, being that we're there on that one right now, it specifically lists the drive-through coffee facility, but it does not mention the car wash facility. Is that an oversight? Or do we have to have a different contract for the car wash?
No, Tanner and I had this discussion already, and because I thought of that too, but let's see. It says the owner intends to develop let's see, including a drive-through coffee facility. So it doesn't exclude anything.
No.
And I question whether that needed to be there or whether we needed to add the car wash too. And I guess we decided it doesn't really matter.
Oh, it's kind of curious to me that the major facility was excluded by definition there, yeah. But I would have thought, and the car wash would have been appropriate too, but whatever they feel on that, yeah.
Board okay with those changes? No comments? Okay. Go ahead, Al.
I'll go to another one here that I was wanting some clarification on. This is 4.0, obligations of the owner. The third sentence down there, improvements when constructed shall provide the revenue necessary to pay the reimbursement obligation. Is the word revenue needing further clarification? Because I would not want that to be construed that revenue from other sources other than the property tax generated by that particular facility is used. What ran through my mind, and maybe I'm getting back into the weeds too far, but I would not want the sale of property that the DDA owns to be used to pay the reimbursement obligation. It's supposed to come from the property tax that's collected.
On that specific property.
On that specific property. I don't know if we need to, add a word or two there, or if it's sufficient.
Okay, and I know Tanner had some other changes too coming up. Was that one, Tanner, or
Nope.
was that? Okay,
It wasn't on my list.
okay.
How does that compare to other agreements when we refer to the revenue generated by the other agreements that we have in place? Have we looked at that?
It's been characteristic for the board to only use revenue generated
Right.
by the specific facility to be used for reimbursement.
Correct.
And then secondary to our bonded indebtedness.
Yes.
We're subordinate to that.
It is subordinate, yes.
So I just didn't want other revenues coming in to pay for this or any other.
Certainly, but in previous agreements that we've approved, has that been more specifically identified in that?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
haven't
no,
looked at
I
it,
don't know. But again, going forward, we want to tighten things wherever possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I think you may want to look at section 5.4, maybe. During the payment term, the reimbursement obligation shall be calculated solely from the total amount of tax increment revenue produced from the property
Yes.
as defined, and the improvements thereon in excess of the base value. So it's very clear there that
It's
that's
clear
where the
there,
revenue comes from.
but it's not clear further initially. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm just looking for consistency.
When I read this, section 4 is just talking about the obligations of the owner and what my expectations are.
Yeah.
It doesn't obligate the DDA to do anything.
And that's a good point too, yeah. As long as we're together on that.
That was up to you,
Yeah.
Are we comfortable then the way it is, or do we need to reword anything?
It's fine the way it is. think if it's specified in a particular paragraph that refers to what the revenue is, I think it's fine.
So we could certainly put in there property tax between the word "the" and revenue, and that would define it completely.
The property tax revenue, to read like that.
That certainly is comfortable with me and my thoughts on that, yeah.
Okay, is that okay with you, Dan? Okay. Okay, Tanner, did you have a couple more?
In section 4.2, there was a typo. It was an equal sign that should have been an apostrophe. That's been changed. 4.3, under insurance, the requirements are now to match the city's requirements. And in lieu of any city requirements for insurance, there is Exhibit D that's been added. We found the city has requirements and not going to require anything other than that. In 4.4, we've added language, and this was per Dan's attorney's request, and Paul had no problem with it, arising through the date of completion of construction. 4.6, same thing, Dan's attorney asked for during the term of this agreement to be added, which is now included in the draft. Section 5.2 added first anniversary after the, which is regarding the payment term. So the reimbursement obligation shall commence upon the first anniversary after the date of completion of construction, where before it read shall commence upon the date of completion of construction.
Oh, okay.
So this will cause the first, the reimbursement obligation, which is our obligation to reimburse Dan, to commence 1 year after completion of the construction, which is scheduled for June 1, 2019. It's the completion date. 5.4, amounts payable. The base value definition was changed slightly to read shall be $36,960, understood to be, as of the date of this agreement, the certified assessed value of the property. There was language further down in that paragraph that has been struck. It said, as adjusted from time to time. That was referring to the base value, and the way the contract reads now, the base is not going to be adjusted from time to time. For the purposes of the calculation, it will always be $36,960. On the signature page, Dan provided a new address, and there is now an Exhibit D, though it appears highly unlikely that will be needed.
Okay. Does that sound good to the board? Are there any questions about these minor changes? And Dan's okay with all of them?
Yeah.
His attorney, okay? Then do we need a motion? Okay, go ahead. Oh, Al?
I wanted to kind of reflect a little bit too. In 5.1, on page 4, Sally, I kind of need your help there too. I'm looking just for clarification of words, where we're talking about some of the reimbursements. The contract here refers to it, payment of any of the public improvement recovered costs. I'm reflecting on the utility reimbursement agreement procedure that the city has. Do we need to use different type of words there to define that so it's consistent with city vernacular? And that's for reimbursement of costs that are shared if somebody taps onto the improvements that Dan makes, so that he can get some cost recovery from them. Referred to as at least on the document that I saw, utility reimbursement agreement.
I don't anticipate any utility reimbursement agreement with this project. All the surrounding properties are already developed, so I don't anticipate anybody tapping into the improvements that Mr. Taylor is making, so it's really a moot point.
It's a moot point? Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah.
Al, one more?
And maybe this is a philosophical one, but I'm still a little bit concerned about transferability. Dan and I had an extensive discussion on Saturday, and he gave me, some thoughts, on that too. It is my position that the reimbursement is to be with the property owner and business operator, not to go as additional compensation to real estate agents or additional compensation to the general contractor who prepares it. I'm wanting to have this flow of cash that's returned go to the business owner to help to ensure their success, rather than additional compensation to people who are already out of the picture. And I'm hoping that 4.5 actually accomplishes that. I don't think I'm in the weeds too far on wanting to do whatever we can, to ensure their success. And that's part of our purpose. Not to ensure the success of somebody that is already departed. You could think of it as, in this case, another $400,000 going to somebody else other than the business owner. The business owner is the one that generates the property tax through his work. The general contractor and the realtor have already been compensated and their work is complete. So I'm just hoping that that's sufficient language to accomplish that.
When you refer to the business owner, what if Dan decides he wants to keep ownership of the property, but he wants to lease it to somebody,
Sure.
some business owner?
In that case, I'm still wanting to support the business owner that's going forward, because if the business owner is healthy, then he can afford to pay whatever he needs to pay, be it bank indebtedness, be it lessors or what have you. Now, the differential, as I mentioned earlier too, was that within the family, it just transfers. With going into what your scenario is, Jan, I guess I haven't given that a whole lot of thought.
But if Dan is the property owner
Yeah.
and he's paying the property taxes, why would we reimburse a renter?
Yeah, but the property tax are still generated and earned by the business owner.
No. No, it's the
By the
value of the
property owner.
property.
No,
It's the value of the property.
no.
Yes, it is. I have that situation.
Yeah.
And it's the value of the property. It doesn't make any difference what they're doing
yeah.
in the business.
But the business owner is the one who earns that money, and he pays it to the property owner to then reimburse it to the county treasurer. It's part of a triple net lease, that which apparently you're aware of. Yeah.
Not everybody has triple net. I don't.
Well, that's not my fault.
No, it isn't your
Yeah.
fault, but it's the business, it's the property owner's choice whether they want to charge triple net or
Sure.
whatever name you want to give it, and what their reasons are for that.
And this may be a nuance that I haven't factored into my thought processes, in something of that nature. So my primary goal is, one, to support that business owner in his enterprise, to make it as best for success as we can.
Right, but if Dan is paying the property taxes,
Yeah,
why would his tenant be reimbursed?
yeah.
Kelly?
I just have a comment. I think our control ceases at some point, at a point. We can intend to reimburse Dan for a specific purpose, correct? And we reimburse him based upon his providing proof, if you will, of the expenses that he's incurred to do these public improvements. And our intent is to reimburse him for him to build that back into his business to help him be successful. What he does with that money when we give it to him is out of our control. So if he wants to give it to the homeless people on the streets of Colorado Springs, that's his free will to do it. Our intention was genuine. But once we write that check, our control is gone. And so to try and control that use beyond our intent, we have no control over that. Absolutely none. And so I appreciate your passion for that, but our control after it's gone is gone. And so we can write all the words we want, but we can't enforce anything upon that business owner for how he uses that money.
And I certainly agree with that, yeah. Yeah, whatever it is that we can do to support that business owner. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what he does with it is still choice.
Oh, that's right, after it's given to them, yeah. It goes to the
I
bottom line.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we really lose our ability to enforce anything
Sure.
past that. Thank you.
You bet. Murph, any comment?
I think this brought up a very important point that maybe we need to look at for future operations, is because we've actually got a number of different positions here in which we've given developers money, we've given property owners money, and we've given business owners money, and they are not always the same person. For instance, at this point, I am exploring the possibility of purchasing the property. However, due to the taxation situation and everything else, it is not attractive at this point. Okay, because of taxes, the amount of money requested for the building and everything else. However, I'm still the business owner, but I'm not the property owner. So there is no incentive, even though I have a triple net lease, I'm responsible for 100% of that building maintenance. What vested interest do I have in sprucing that building up and making it a whole lot better so that Mike can get a TIF? Okay, so I think there's some work to do there.
There's another nuance, and maybe I am really out in the deep weeds on this one. But in the event that the property owner and the business owner, as a group, do not pay the property tax, it then goes up for auction in the end of November, first part of November, and somebody else, an investor, pays the property tax. Can that investor then file to get the TIF payment? And I don't know the answer.
Good question. I would think that's a Benedetti question.
I think that's an attorney question.
Now, is it, and do businesses, end up with delinquent taxes? Yes, they do. It has happened. Years ago, I was involved in purchasing tax liens. And I went to different counties around the state and was doing that. There was a period there, though fairly short, that I had the tax lien on the airport over in Buena Vista. I never did get it, obviously, but it was just kind of an interesting thing, that it can happen. But again, how often? I don't know. And again, I may be way in the deep weeds on something like that. But so then if that person applies for the taxes, then do we pay him? And then the property owner comes back and redeems it, then those funds are no longer there because those funds went to the investor, not to the DDA.
I think for future reference, we should probably ask Benedetti about that. That's a good question. I never thought, that never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Tanner, do you
So-
have a comment on any of that?
I think that's an excellent question. I agree. I think we ought to ask Benedetti. I don't have any idea what the answer would be if somebody doesn't pay their taxes and there's a tax lien and someone else, is that lien holder, I guess? Can they apply for the TIF refund? Or once the property taxes are paid, can the defaulting party still apply for the TIF refund because they're the party to the agreement and the taxes were paid?
Yeah.
I think that...
They didn't pay them.
I know that there's
Right.
a special deed that is issued for people that buy property from a tax sale, and they don't have a full deed to the property until quite a lengthy time has passed, an opportunity for cure. A lot of things have to pass before, and so I'm not sure,
It's 3 years.
but I
If you pay
think
the
that's
property
all
taxes
of
for
those
3
things
years, then you get
associated
the deed.
stay in limbo, and I would suggest
It
we
does.
wouldn't pay anything until a proper deed is presented of full ownership, because they don't always end up, just like you didn't end up with the airport.
Right. Initially, over about a 3-year period, you'll pay 4 years of property tax. And all that you have is a tax lien. You do not have the right to enter that property or utilize that property. Once you have made that last payment, then you apply for a treasurer's deed.
Right.
And associated with that treasurer's deed, there are certain limitations too, because there are those that are, if the property owner was a minor or was mentally deficient at the time, then they have a period in which to redeem that. Now, you can get around that by doing a quiet title action. And then you have more of a firm ownership of that particular piece of property. Or you can wait until the statute of limitations runs through it.
I would like to see this, and Tanner, we're going right to you, but I would like to see that Betty Clarkline will be here in August. I think that would be a good question for her on the heels of Benedetti's comment
Sure.
to that question. I don't know, Tanner, go ahead. I don't know how this will pertain to Dan, whether it's
No.
something we should hold him up with at this point.
No, we must move forward with Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was just a
Are
question.
you comfortable then with that, Dan? I'm feeling this anxiety rise.
Because, to me, I look at this more than just Dan. How are we as a board going to work with other business entities going forward? And these are some of the questions that we
I
start
think
coming
that
up
should
with.
maybe come
Yeah.
up in August. Tanner?
The issue might be addressed in 4.6 here, ad valorem property taxes, where the agreement reads, therefore, the owner covenants and agrees to pay all ad valorem property taxes properly assessed when and as they come due on the property and private improvements, and will provide the authority with a report of the amount of such taxes and the date of payment within 30 days of such payment during the term of this agreement. So, in the event that the owner does not pay the property taxes and is in default, then as long as we're properly administering the agreement, we would put them, issue a notice of default.
Yeah.
And that might terminate our reimbursement obligation in the event of...
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then we're all comfortable with
Right.
that.
Yeah.
You can move on, and Dan, you're okay.
No, I'm not proposing that be a holdup for this project.
Okay.
No. Besides, my car's dirty and I need to wash it, so I want him to build it quick. Yeah.
Tanner?
Okay, so just to recap, in section 2.2, after coffee facility, we are planning to add and a car wash. Is that right?
Are you comfortable, Dan?
Or did we decide
Or do we-
that was unnecessary?
I don't think we decided to do that.
Okay. And in 4.0, we're adding property tax in the third line between the words the and revenue. In 4.1, for Sally, are we Did we decide not to make any change there, or are we adding or adjacent to following on? So it would read on or adjacent to the property on or before June 1, 2019, and that's regarding the public improvements.
I don't see what harm that would cause. It would provide further clarification, I think. Sally, would you agree with that? Dan, are you all right with that?
And that's the consistent language.
There's two other places for the same language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll add or adjacent to. I think that's it for changes to the agreement,
Okay.
unless,
Al?
I'm going to go to Exhibit C, and this is where I'm wanting to make this one step easier for, in this case, Taylor Mountain Enterprises. At the bottom of that document, it asks for the signature, and this is for the certificate of eligible costs.
Excellent.
The manager of Taylor Mountain is to sign it, and then an engineer or contractor. Then it asks for a notarized signatures. Is this really necessary to do away with that step, so that's just one less thing that the applicant has to worry about? In Dan's case, he's local, and this is where the project is. The contracting company and engineers are in Colorado Springs. And in theory, both would have to appear before a notary to place the signatures in front of the notary. That's extra work. Do we need it? Make it easier for Dan.
I would say yes.
We do?
Absolutely.
The owner of
Okay.
Hammer Construction lives up here.
Well, yeah, I know. But I was just wanting to make it one step easier for the applicant to not have to worry about,
There's notaries at every bank. They're
That's
easy.
right.
And that's just a question I don't know the answer to. Yeah.
Okay, Dan says he's fine with it the way it
Yeah.
is, so in this particular case,
Sure.
we'll go with that.
And maybe I've gone into the weeds too far on thinking through on that, yeah.
Start climbing up out of those weeds.
The definition of weeds is different today than it was used to be.
Let's go with the old
Let's
version.
go with the old version, yeah.
Either that or the sheriff will be in here after you.
And I haven't been in those weeds.
so if that's it for changes, there are two blanks to fill in section 4.1, and they're both dates. Dan has suggested two dates for the two blanks. I have no problem with them. It has to do with due date for construction documents and for commencement of construction of the public improvements. Dan has suggested September 1, 2018 as the deadline for the construction documents, and 1 month later, October 1st, 2018 as the deadline for commencement of construction.
Good with that.
Great.
I think unanimous.
Yes.
That's aggressive, yeah. If you can handle that, more power to you. My car has to get hard. That's just one step closer.
And Dan
Sally.
says, guys, I had 3 car washes already.
What happens if those dates are not met? Does the developer have the option to amend those dates with a request by the board?
The developer can request an extension or amendment, and if the board agrees, so be it. And if not, he's in default, and the board has that option as well.
There's language at the end that says each such deadline shall be subject to extensions of time for events of force majeure or with the consent of the authority, which consent will not be unreasonably withheld.
Okay, we're all comfortable with that? Okay, here we go. Now, do we need to approve these? Do we need to, can we do that now? Does it need to have the changes before? What's the recommendation here?
If the board's ready, I'd say we motion to approve the redevelopment and reimbursement agreement between Woodland Park Downtown Development Authority and Taylor Mountain Enterprises, that we date it as of today, that we amend section 4.0 as previously discussed, that we add September 1, 2018 and October 1, 2018 as the deadlines and the corresponding blanks in section 4.1. We add the language "or adjacent to" in that same section as previously discussed, and we authorize the chair to sign it.
I'll make that motion.
Jen?
Okay, I'll
Are
second.
you okay with that before we do it? Okay. Then we have a motion on the table for what Tanner said. You got it, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone
Kelly
need
seconded.
her to read it back?
No.
Okay. Then we have a second on that by Al. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none?
You're good to
Approved.
go, bud.
Okay. Okay, moving right along. Finance. Once again, Tanner, I see we have a updated financial.
Yep, and I apologize for the late delivery of that. There are just a few extra copies in the back if anybody's interested. I worked on this just a little bit last night. It's not a very formal presentation, but I wanted to bring this to the board and give you guys an update because we're coming to a decision point. I am very pleased to report that we are on track to meet the projected revenues, and that we have paid most of the TIF agreements for this year, including Gold Hill North, Gold Hill Theater, Trail Ridge Apartments, and Eagle Fire. There are 2 more TIF reimbursements to be made, and we're waiting for those 2 parties to submit their paperwork so we can proceed with their reimbursements. We have paid the bond payment of just over $280,000 for the year, so that is done. And we are at or below every budgeted expense item except for Woodland Station and some grading work that we opted to do earlier this year, and of course contract professional services, which includes legal fees and other things. Because that account is exceeding budget and the judge has still not issued a ruling, I think the most responsible thing to do is to postpone the city payment for now, which I have chosen to do and notified the city of such. It can be paid later this year from damages that we receive if they are awarded by the judge and we can collect them, or bond proceeds from a drawdown bond with Vector Bank. I've spoken with Conrad Freeman at Vector Bank and Mario Trimble of Kutak Rock to prepare the documents necessary to bring back to this board and to the City Council for approval. I'd like this to be presented at the July 9th council meeting.
19th,
I'm sorry.
like you said.
July 19th council meeting, with final documents being presented at both council meetings in August, which should result in additional funding available in September, which would allow us to meet all of our obligations now and in the future, regardless of the judge's ruling. And I would ask for consensus of the board to continue the process.
Very well. Do we have questions about this? And this bond that Tanner's talking about would be more like a line of credit to be drawn on as needed and not just borrowed and put in the bank. So, not
Is there a specific interest rate on that?
4.6%.
I'm sorry, I missed that, okay.
I did
Is it
brief
variable?
the council. No,
It's fixed or variable?
fixed.
Fixed, okay.
And it would not refund any existing debt. We would keep the 3.67% that we have on what's outstanding now. And then we would just add to that with a new interest rate on the new issue. I did brief the council just in a report that we were considering this so that they would not be caught off guard with a full presentation on the 19th. Didn't get any reaction, didn't ask for one. It was more of a report, informational, about where the DDA board sits, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Good. So, Tanner's asking for a consensus. Does he have that consensus on this board?
Yes.
Okay, Tanner.
Thank you.
I also want to, I brought, in case anyone is interested, the 2017 audited financial statements for the City of Woodland Park, which contains the balance sheet and operating statement for the component unit, which is the DDA. If anyone wants to take a look at it, I just brought it for information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, Tanner, any more on finance? We'll move on to taxes. Okay, that's it. Property tax assessment. And this really has kind of come up. Murph had a couple of questions and comments at the last meeting. And we do have Betty Clark line coming. And I would refer to Murph, if you'd like to restate your comments from last time, and we can get a clarification.
There's I sent Lynn a copy of... Okay, I sent Lynn a copy of a tax assessment sheet that shows most of the businesses along Highway 24, and it covers down on 2012 through 2017 taxes. Okay. I sat down, I ran some quick figures, and while the county is, or the overall, I drove the business up about 30% last year, okay? And the assessor came in, and because I had cleaned the bathrooms, and you can't smell them at the front door anymore, the building is no longer badly worn. Even though I did nothing to the building whatsoever, and I know for a fact that Mike did nothing to the building whatsoever. My taxes increased over $3,000 or 76% in 1 year. Okay, profitability on restaurants and eateries is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 to 6%. All right, that ate up 7% of my profit for that year, which was a grand total of $38,000 if it came in at 4.5. However, the business went flat last year in the fall. I showed a bottom line of $2,000 at the end of the year. Okay, whether it was poor business, being a poor businessman or not, it kind of, blows me away when I sit down and I start looking and I see that Pepe Serrano was paying $3.78 a square foot for his business, and I see Chamoyo Jewelry over here, which is a small building. He's paying in excess of $3, but then I see Foxworth is paying $1.11 a square foot. Okay, I get it that it's on the properties, but when they take and they start looking at, because Betty Clark Wine did tell me that she needed to see my P&Ls, my profit and loss statements, because it drives. We can drive and we can calculate the tax on how much money you're making. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm bringing in a whole lot more money in tax revenues, and they want to take from my profits as well. So where's the incentive for me as a businessman to do better? Why do I want to bust my ass, excuse me, to push so that the county and the city and everybody else can enjoy the hard work that I've been doing? And that's where I'm coming from. I mean, I sent this sheet out to everybody so they can start looking at it and analyzing it. Okay, anybody else that wants a copy can ask for it. But it does show that there's some pretty, I would call it disparity in the taxation arena.
Well, I would like to comment on that. I think that should come up in one of our workshops, because it looks to me like really the DDA is the only voice of the business people right now to really have a voice for business, and I think that needs to be shared with council and other entities. And I really do think that this is something,
All right, Joe,
yes,
this has a severe impact on what the DDA is supposed to be trying to do.
exactly.
Okay, when
And
it
this
becomes
is why we
unattractive,
need to
when it
figure this out.
becomes unattractive for a business to come to a community because the taxes are so out of whack, there's such a disparity in how it's managed, and a 76% increase in 1 year. I mean, there's others that have, and they go up and down. I mean, I see one that had a 73.4% increase, another's 77.9%. So I'm not in the boat alone, I get that. But we have got to get something under control around here so that it does become more attractive for businesses to come to this town.
Murph, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but when she asked for your P&L, income is another way that they could tax you.
Revenue method.
And there are 3 different ways that they can tax you, and that could be, I don't know that that's where she was going, but I do know that the income approach is a way to be taxed.
And that's why we've asked her to come in August, so that we've got some clarity and the community has. Because if we're gonna go out and ask for businesses to come here and then slap them with the face that it's gonna cost you 25% more to do business here than anywhere else, why would they choose us? So this is where we need to find out the answers to these questions.
I asked a question about.
Yes.
You mentioned Serrano's went out. So was that maybe a driving force?
No.
No.
No, they're selling the building. The owner is selling the building. It's on the market. And some other circumstances that came up. That is why he's not there anymore. He's my neighbor, and that's the reason I'm that.
Yeah.
He's looking to restart and open again, but it's just a matter of location. Right. But I wanted to just comment that the revenue method is, or the income approach is one way that's provided by state law to calculate the taxes. I would suggest, and no offense to our current assessor, but we are getting a new assessor come November. And I don't know, maybe we wait for that to occur to work on things with our new assessor. Maybe that would be an opportunity. Or we could work now, as you had suggested in August, with the current assessor, and then transition with the new assessor. And again, have that line of communication open so that we understand, we can offer opportunities for our businesses to understand and voice their grievances like Murphy is here. I think it's more valuable than we can even imagine.
And perhaps we could partner with Main Street on this. I'm chair of the EVC committee, and one of the things that we have just started is at least twice a year visiting with the businesses, and that is a question, you know, about their concerns and whatever. So maybe Main Street could help with that, Murph.
I think the more the merrier.
And
Yeah.
I think so too, and I do think that it definitely should be addressed. Go ahead, Tanner.
My understanding of the income approach to property valuation is that it's based on the income received by the landlord, not necessarily produced by the business. There is a difference. So, for instance, in Murph's case, the restaurant generates a healthy profit, or meager profit, or whatever. That's the business's profit, and the rent paid is already taken out of that bottom line. So the rent paid is the income that's part of the income approach, not so much the business financials as the landlords.
I'm not familiar enough.
I'm not either.
Well,
I'm not the assessor.
me neither.
I am. I went through that training, and so he's...
You are the assessor?
No, I am not the assessor. I went through appraiser training.
I just think it would behoove us to keep our finger on that pulse and maybe learn what that approach is,
Yeah.
just from a basic understanding.
I do agree that it's a very important issue for this board to have some awareness of. Absolutely. Our charge is to provide for the public health, safety, prosperity, security, and welfare of the district, and property taxes directly affect the health, the prosperity, and the welfare of the central business district. These taxes are unusually high burden to business in Woodland Park compared to other similar cities around the state. Recognizing that and understanding it is an important first step toward improving it. Furthermore, the DDA's revenues are property tax revenues paid from the property owners within the district. So understanding the assessment process and how tax revenues and TIF are generated is our responsibility. So I'm glad that it was brought up, and I look forward to that conversation. If we're going to work with Betty Clarkwine or stay with the plan that she's coming here in August, which she's agreed to do, she's asked that we give her some direction regarding the presentation. And if we don't, if we go with the recommendation to wait till the new assessor is in, I would suggest maybe the same approach, that we provide some direction with our request for them to come and present, which would be, i.e., how much time should they take, what issues should they cover, and what questions do we have that we can submit in advance so they're prepared to answer those. That was Betty Clarkwine's request when I spoke with her on the phone. So I did suggest to her that she spend a few minutes discussing how property tax is calculated. It's very simple, and that won't take more than a few minutes. A little more time on the assessment process itself and how the values are derived, which goes to MERS concerns, and then some time on increment versus base values and how TIF is separated from the overall value within the district, so that we understand how TIF is calculated and generated and results in DDA revenues. And then in addition to that, we would submit questions that the board has that anybody can submit in advance, just so they know what to show
So
up for.
you're asking that we all think of 1, 2, 3 questions?
Correct,
That
yeah.
we can forward to Lynn, and Lynn can put some kind of a summary together of those questions and send that to Betty before she comes on August, and have a compiled list of questions. Okay, we would do that. And in lieu of time, we need to get to committees. Is there anything real focused we need on Betty?
Just if we are going to have Betty come, then I can call her and confirm that, and then let her know we'll submit questions at some point. Or if you want to wait for the new assessor, or if we're going to do both.
Or do both.
I think both.
I do too.
Let's do Betty since we've already approached her. Let's do Betty since we had approached her. She has been in that position for a while. I think we should continue on with that.
I agree.
And in conjunction, I think that we should notify the public that she will be here. We're televised now. They can watch from home if they do have questions about the assessor, taxes, how they're figured, that kind of thing. They can tune in to watch this meeting in the morning. But if they don't know that is going to be the agenda, then they won't, they'll miss the meeting. Maybe they'll watch.
Could be in the paper, Bob.
Debbie?
And Pat?
Just to let you know, Betty Clark will be coming and doing a training in September for a couple of hours.
Okay.
So we'll get the date and the place to be
Good. That'll be good. And then maybe there could be some follow-up depending on how our August meeting goes too. Thank you very much for that, Debbie. Okay, can we move along from that? We have some committees here we'd like to add to this before we leave, and we only have about 15 minutes here. I'd like to address, we're talking about design review committee, which we have. We have a finance committee, which we have. We have a newsletter. We have a newsletter committee.
Correct.
Which we have. And maybe consider adding a downtown improvements committee. Since we are going to move forward, Woodland Station has been somewhat addressed in some redevelopment. And hopefully with what Main Street's doing, we can work with that committee in conjunction with their actions so that we're on the same page there.
Correct.
Does that, can we address those 4 committees, Tanner?
Well, currently, the design review committee is Jan and myself. We've been the 2 on that committee for some years. The finance committee is Al and myself. I think the newsletter committee is Ellen and Jan.
Yes.
And I would love to see a downtown improvements committee because I think the downtown could stand to use some improvement. There's a lot of what I would call low-hanging fruit. I know that Main Street has a work program and is serious about making some improvement, and I sense a lot of city support and interest in seeing the downtown come back to life or improve, we'll say, and to work with the other organizations and interface, a committee would make sense. So I'd love to be on that if we want.
I would too.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think, now I know when we started the design review committee, that was in line with Woodland Station developing into a full-fledged development with standards as it is right now. We don't know where that's going. Do you think there's any overlap between design and downtown improvement? Could we combine them or do away with the design committee at this time and move forward with just the improvements committee?
We can't do away.
What are some recommendations here?
I think they should be combined.
Yes. I think we have to have the design review.
Design review committees are a requirement. We don't have a choice.
Okay. Can we combine the two?
We can just use the design review committee as the downtown improvements, I suppose.
I'm in favor of that.
Now, we only had 2, excuse me, I'll get you in there, but we only had 2 people on this committee because it required a public notice meeting if there was more than 2. Do you think that either of these are worth having more people on these committees and then posting them just because we've got reaching out with Main Street and more development at this time?
It makes it very difficult to have a meeting or discussions if we have to do that because there's a requirement of how many hours it has to be posted, where you're going to, it really does clog that up. That's just my...
Murph, go ahead.
Well, design review, finance, both of those we pretty much have to have, but as far as a downtown improvements, I think that would muddy the waters between us and Main Street. We've already got 2 people on Main Street that are working very hard to bring that forward, and to create another committee is just, I really don't see the need of it. We're actually should be just supporting Main Street in that effort.
What about a liaison to that Main Street committee from DDA?
There you go.
Which committee?
Instead of making another committee here for DDA, we could have, DDA working in conjunction with Main Street and make it a liaison position.
You mean like me?
Like you, sweetheart.
That's where I'm already at. I don't see the need for another committee, especially on DDA. It's really not our purview as far, yes, development, things like that, but Main Street, the one that's supposed to be looking out for how nice Main Street is, how it looks and everything else. I don't want to get into competition for grants and things like that with them, because Main Street, that's their lane. I really do see that. And our lane is different. But I am there to be the liaison and to support them and push that forward and see the economic development, how not, keeping Main Street going nice and everything else.
Okay. Andrew?
Well, I largely agree with what you're saying. I don't want to see any stepping on toes or competition per se. I would argue the DDA was established long longer ago than Main Street, and its charge is definitely those things.
Okay.
And my thought on downtown improvement committee, which I'm fine operating without it, I'd like to see the organizations collaborate better, not compete, but collaborate. And right now, I know Main Street is working on some things. I know we've had some ideas as DDA, and I know the city has some ideas on things, but I don't sense things really working together as well as everybody is hoping that they're going to. And
But we can step
and
that
we're all,
up.
exactly, and we're all continuing to work in the same direction, and it's just a step toward that is all that I was thinking. with
And
that, is
Keep
to
Woodland
find-
Park Beautiful has a beautification committee. That's all, and that's me.
But if,
So
if
there we are, all working together. Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Because we can't have 3 DDA members on it, we can sure ask a different Main Street member who is not part of the DDA to come and be part of that committee, can we not?
Yes, why
That way
not?
we have some, more interconnectivity.
Okay, any comment from Jerry? Any comment? Okay, so consensus. Design Review Committee stays the same. Jan and Tanner. Finance Committee, Tanner now.
I would like to join that.
I'd like to nominate Kelly to be part of that committee.
Me too. I'd second that.
For
Then we'll have
not
3.
so obvious reasons, but
Then we'll have 3.
Now we have 3 on there.
I have to speak to that. I think that the public notice process should be accomplished because I think the meetings should be public. And I think we should encourage people that have an interest in these things to be there and contribute. It's a committee meeting, more of a workshop environment. And so to get that input from the people in the DDA, I think would be invaluable. Why would we avoid not having the public there? Just because we have to notice a meeting.
No special reason.
And we don't meet that often that it would be that cumbersome to really do a public notice process. I mean, in my often left field, I'm new to this, but I think the more we can involve and reach out, the better.
Al?
if we expand the committee, and that's the desire of the group, that's fine. But if we want to keep it at 2, I'd be happy to resign from that committee so that there are just the 2, and they can function as we have in the past. Yeah, so whichever way the board goes.
And just because it's 2 and not 3 and we don't, I would still say that we should invite people to come
Still invite.
to the meetings to give input, so.
I would like to comment on that. I think it's important to make these more open and invite people and have more people on these committees. I think that we have created a very closed environment and not as transparent because we've kept it to 2. Not for that reason, only because of convenience on our part. And I think that if someone wants to come and wants to be a part of it, they should be able to.
Sure. No problem with that.
And I know that whatever's decided has to come, it's all recommendation, it has to come before the board to be approved before any of these committees can really do anything. And we must remember that, and we must make sure the public knows that. Murph?
I'm in agreement.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement about having the committees open to the public. I mean, the meetings open to the public. They need to be. But because of the convenience, if we go 2, 3 people on those committees, then we've got to have a recorder, we've got to take minutes, we've got to have those approved by the board, and it just becomes very cumbersome with that many committees and everything. It would just, I think we should keep a record of what goes on in those meetings, all right, as best we can. But going beyond 2 people, then we've got to keep everything in record, and it becomes subject to the sunshine laws. It's already subject to them, but we don't have to keep records otherwise.
And those committees don't make those decisions. It comes to the board. Sorry.
I have a question about that. If you have 3 people on a committee, only 2 can meet at one time, but you can still have 3 people on the committee. You just all 3 can't meet at the same time. I think right now, we're apparently okay like we are. If in the future, through these workshops, we feel we need to expand, more people want to get involved, I think we should readdress this down the road.
Sure.
Okay.
So
Does
does
that
this
sound
mean we
good?
should have Tanner, Al, and Kelly? Because Kelly would like to be on the finance committee. They just don't all meet
Tanner?
at the same time.
Nominating Kelly to be on the finance committee.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Yes.
Comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have 3 people on that. Only 2 will meet at a time, keep the third one in the loop, whatever, and we'll move forward with that. Newsletter committee, we're okay with Ellen and Dan moving forward there. It was a nice letter in Mountain Jackpot last time. It was very informative, well written. I was pleased to see that. Okay, we're going to move on because it's 9 o'clock. We have an offer, a free office space from the Woodland Professional Building to store our records in. So if that's approval with this board, we can start negotiating the move of the boxes and have a place to go so Tanner doesn't have to store them.
Well, right now, the city is storing most of the records. They're in a storage closet over by planning. I have several boxes of things that Tweeds in a filing drawer that is dedicated just to DDA records that are current files that haven't been put in cold storage yet.
Okay.
So, it's,
Now, is that something we think is important to do?
I do.
Anyone else? Feelings? Ellen, you want to
I
finish?
feel that they are okay and under the city's control.
Ellen, we've had problems with that.
Not anymore. We
Kelly?
won't let them happen again. I would just say that they are city records. The DDA is a component unit of the city. Their financials are required to be in the financial statements and be available for audit and review by whomever. I think they're city records, and I think they need to be in the custody of the city.
I'm just skittish
Without
because of
Any-
prior events.
That's in the past. We're moving forward.
Anything else? Any
We're
other
building
comments?
bridges and building relationships.
I would hope so.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we...
Sally, do you have any input? Are they in the way, or is there issues with storage? Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we will move forward and thank them very graciously for offering, but they are secure where they are. And is that good with you? You're the one with the excess space, if you need to bring more of the city came.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. At some point, I mean, I don't see it as a permanent long-term plan. At some point, if we ever employ an executive director again,
Then we'll address that issue.
they might need an office, right?
Yeah.
A filing cabinet, a computer. And
Record
right-
storage should definitely be put under the direction of the city clerk. Absolutely, without question. Minutes, everything.
Okay, on to 10, board tables versus council desk. We have a request, or just a thought. I don't know if it's a request. I think it's a thought, whether we should continue the setup of the tables down here, or whether we should set it council seats up here, since we're using the microphone and videotaping. My personal feeling on that is we're not council. I think it's a little presumptuous of us to sit in council seats. I think we're a little more approachable down here at these tables than we are up there. Personal thought. Would like to hear some input from you.
I agree with you. I like this setup and feel comfortable here.
It's friendlier, more accessible.
I concur.
I agree.
I would say that these are used by many other groups, Delaware County Planning Commission, the Board of Review, many other policy setting boards, which is what this is. I'm just arguing, I think this is great where we are, but don't feel like that this is reserved for the council.
No, we bought this chair.
Exactly.
Okay.
But this is great.
Set it up too.
I think, and then I would like to ask the audience an opinion on that. Do you feel like you're more approachable down here?
No.
Okay,
I love it.
all right. Well, then we will just continue as long as Jan is
Not a problem.
up for this. Go into general discussion. Kelly, any general discussion?
I don't know, but thank you for asking.
Nick?
No.
Nothing additional, thank you.
Mention it to her.
Coming the 19th of, I've got to get the email out to the Main Street Board for suggestions, but due to the time constraints and summer going on, we are pushing forward. We have a commercial about 2/3 done that promotes the city of Woodland Park and a number of the businesses, and we're coming to the city council with a recommendation and a request. But we're
Great.
going to have that on the agenda as well.
Good, so we need to show up for support as many as we can. Proper?
Sure.
On the 19th?
On the 19th.
Okay.
I support you, but I'm going to be in Maine, so
Tanner?
won't be here.
None.
Jerry?
The RV parking signs that you put out, that I noticed that in the past, I'm right close to it, and most of the people that come in prior to being a designated parking area parked behind the cultural center, typically because there's a lot of commuters and stuff that park in that other parking lot. And I noticed that the parking sign is over towards right behind Williams there instead of the cultural center. Is there any reason for that? Can it be added another arrow on the side so both parking lots might be labeled?
Yes, darling.
And
Yes, darling.
but it's something that I think unless there's a reason for not using behind the cultural center, because it's more accommodating to bigger vehicles in that lot too. So just wanted to point that out.
To be addressed, we'll approach Main Street and see, because they're handling Sally.
Jerry, that's great.
Jerry, that's great input. I was just handed the sign permit application this morning from Main Street, so we will have a chance to review it with the Main Street folks and come up with some tweaks that are more strategically located, because the park and ride spot, when people are driving through town and they're coming through that intersection, they'll be more likely to turn at Joni's, and then there is an RV sign that directs them up to the upper parking lot. So we'll look at this a little bit more closely for its effectiveness, and appreciate your input.
Good. Jan, or Tanner, you have something to comment on it?
Sure. I forgot about Woodland Station. We had added that to the
I
agenda.
know, I just saw that, so I thought we'll get.
Should we come back to that?
Next, yeah. Jan, you have any general?
I was just going to mention the same thing, so.
Yeah, I don't know on the agenda here. I'd like to say for general discussion, the rodeos this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 13th, 14th, and 15th. And it is coming together, believe it or not. So, we're going to have a rodeo in spite of ourselves. So now we will.
Mary Jo,
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that I did put it on the community calendar.
Oh, thank you.
That the chamber puts out.
Great, and the chamber, or the, Sound Club is a member of the chamber.
Yes, so moved.
Thank you very much for doing that. Okay, now we're going to refer back to the correction to the agenda and talk about our drainage over at Woodland Station. I don't know, I would say, Tanner, you will probably have to wave your magic wand and see if we have any money that we can scrape up somewhere to address the holes in Woodland Station.
Abracadabra. Oh, there's no money.
There really isn't.
It didn't work. Fresh out of magic.
Then that solves that.
Well-
We put the yellow tape up.
You know, you can see the 2018 projected column on the report that I gave you. I should point out that in the 3535 expense account, which is the contractor professional services attorneys, that is where we stand right now. There are additional expenses coming. I would expect them to be rather lengthy, or rather significant. The proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law report that was requested by the judge was due yesterday. It was submitted. It's 140 pages long. So just knowing how much work has gone into something like that, I would, and what this amount of 147,965 represents, and how much work has been done since, I think we have some significant bills coming. That's why I think, you know, unless we get the ruling for damages and are able to collect it this year, we don't have money for things without the drawdown bond that we're pursuing. But with that, there is sufficient money available to cover all of our obligations. So, you know,
So we're on in a time frame on hold right now.
yeah, and with that, there's $57,849 in the fund balance. If we pretty much just freeze things right now, pay the remaining TIF reimbursements, and don't make the city payment, we still have $57,849 in the fund reserve, the fund balance. So, what do we do? I think we have an obligation to move forward. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous expense, and I think we need to fix the erosion and stabilize the surface. It's something we intended to do, and have been dragging feet because of finance.
And if we don't do it, it'll just continue to deteriorate.
And can I make a comment? I contacted two of the hydromulch companies that were supposed to have been up here, and they never showed. So I apologize, and I'll follow up on that more if you guys would like to go that route. I remember years ago we were looking at a lot up on Browning, clear up on the top, and one of the requirements from the contractor was erosion control, and he just threw a couple of bales of straw out there, and that was considered control. I mean, is this something where a few bales of hay or straw would get us through it?
Yeah, no.
No, I'm just checking. You know, I mean, you got to ask.
Okay, well, I would ask Sally, it looks like we're on hold for a short time. Any comments, Sally?
The more you delay the repair and remedy the methods for controlling sediment transfer and erosion, the worse it's going to get. And it is a performance-based code that if you're not performing and you're creating problems with erosion, then you're in violation of the city code. So the city would like to see this repaired, and it was part of your grading permit that was issued quite a while ago. So this is the consequence of not completing a project in a timely manner.
Correct. So there we are, between a rock and a hard spot, the big ditch.
So,
Do we have any estimates on cost?
not for hydromulch, although, like Jerry said, he'll follow up with a couple. I've contacted another. In fact, I've contacted two contractors. One from Colorado Springs who wants me to send approximate dimensions and a photo of the area before he'll provide a bid, and another one that was recommended by Dave Dantley. The guy's out of, I think, Fairplay. So I've called him as well. I can...
Let's follow. Just my suggestion would be that we follow up. Sorry to interrupt.
And that's my plan. I'm going to...
And take care of it.
Mhm.
It's fund balance.
Well, let's assume they come back and we have some what seem like reasonable bids. Can we proceed, or do we need to wait until the next regular meeting a month from now to bring the estimates back and go? Does the board want to authorize some limited budget for this work?
Do we have an idea of cost, just a ballpark figure?
I don't, not yet.
Well, I personally think we should move forward on this as quickly as possible. If we don't have a meeting, at least email and get a consensus. Go ahead, Mark.
No, we need to move forward because we need to move forward because it's only going to get worse and wind up costing more in the long run.
Correct.
Kelly?
For things like this, I mean, we have a budget. We have an approved budget. We have about $10,000 unspent. I would suggest that this is moving in on an emergency situation. I know as the council that our clerk can facilitate communication between the board members. In instances like this, I would suggest that Lynn and our chair or our treasurer coordinate with Lynn to speak with the city clerk to facilitate an email situation with the board to approve once we get information, because it can happen, and the clerk can assist you in doing that legally.
Okay. Then I would, do we need a vote on that? Can we get a consensus for this? To move
I would
on
have a
this
consensus.
as stated.
Yeah.
So we've got the consensus to move forward, Jerry, Tanner. The construction, I can also talk to a couple of contractors as well and have them look at it too. And then we will compare notes and move on. Okay. General discussion to the public, and then we will wind down. Debbie, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Very quickly, on April 2nd, we have a lunch and learn. Lee Taylor will be teaching us about how to retire. All of us. August 2nd.
Okay. Dan, anything? Bob, anything? Pat? Sally? Okay.
I do have a couple of clarifications. When
Yes.
is Sally Clark line? When is Sally Clark line coming? Is that August 7th?
Betty Clark won.
Betty Clark line?
What did I say?
Sally.
Oh. Where did that come from?
Yeah. And
Okay,
our
August 2nd.
regular meeting on first Tuesday of August 7th.
All right.
Bob, that's because you're Tyrone deprived.
Okay.
I'm East Coast gourmet.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, hearing none. Meeting is adjourned.